Story 1, Bob Ross Products. Love the man, but since he died, the people that took over his brand and started selling items with his name on it are awful, terrible people. Edit. This is the documentary on Netflix, Bob Ross. Happy Accidents, Betrayal, and Greed. Story 2. Locally, there are several restaurants in my city that I will not visit because they are all owned by the same person, and he was rude to me on an earlier occasion. Yes, I can be quite petty about these things. Story 3. There's a local contractor who used to come into a restaurant where I worked. He would send one of his workers after hours and on weekends for emergency repairs, which is an invaluable resource in a restaurant with old plumbing and electrical systems. As a result, he and his team came in a few times a week for free lunch. One night, I was driving home, and I saw one of their trucks swerve to hit a cat that had already been run over. The driver went out of his way to erratically change his path, not to purposely kill something, but to disrespect something that had already died in an unfortunate way. I don't know why, but this is somehow worse to me. I called their number to let them know without saying who I was. I talked to the head guy, Mr. Big Stuff himself, and he proceeded to be extremely rude over the phone, calling me derogatory names, and then hung up. I calculated how many times they had done work for us versus how much they received in free food and decided to terminate our working relationship. I was fortunate enough to serve them their first bill for lunch in 5 years. Mr. Big Stuff came to the register to point out the mistake, and I asked if he had received any phone calls recently about someone in his truck running over a dead cat about a week ago. Caller probably sounded like someone he insulted. Yeah, we don't offer that discount anymore. Years later, I have had several opportunities to share stories about what an unpleasant person the guy is with people building or renovating, and have pointed them to the business started by one of his former apprentices instead. That apprentice always tipped whatever his meal would have cost and was always the one coming to fix things anyway. Story 4. Bell, I just have to wait for this contract to expire. Those suckers wiggled into the Canadian market, bought up another player, then laid off 4,500 people. Story 5. Bob Ross Art Supplies and Memorabilia. Forget Bob Ross Incorporated and the Kowalskis. Watch the Netflix documentary if you have no idea what I am talking about. It will make you cry and then your blood will boil. Story 6. Pete's Lawn Care. Pete is the most racist person I've ever had the misfortune to interact with in person. I was on a plane next to him, and he screamed about being 6 feet tall. This grown man started kicking the seat of the petite Asian woman in front of him. The Asian woman was from the United States and spoke perfect English. Pete didn't care. She tried to ignore him, and he taunted her. She tried to adjust her seat, and he kicked it at just the right time to send her head flying into the seat in front of her, giving her a bloody nose. He kept calling her many derogatory names due to her race, and her children sitting next to her, as well as everyone else in the vicinity, were appalled. The flight attendant apologized profusely to her and moved her to first class. Pete was furious that he was 6 feet tall and cramped and that he should get moved up to first class. How do I know he owns Pete's Lawn Care? He told us the entire plane. He's 6 feet tall, he is a very successful businessman, he owns his own company, he worked from the ground up for what he has, these people ruin everything in this country, etc., and he let the company slip. I wrote it down so I would never forget what a racist person Pete from Pete's Lawn Care is. Edited to remove the city. I really appreciate everyone's investment, but I am not trying to destroy this business. I'm only stating that I would never use it and why. I don't think it's right to sabotage his online reviews, but don't worry, they were already pretty horrible before I posted this. Let's leave him and his very successful business alone so that when it fails, it's due to their bad business practices and not only the bad owner. Also, this was in 2016, so 8 years ago. Lastly, I asked my friend who was traveling with me what she remembered about the incident. She said she remembered him kicking the seat so hard the lady hit her head, that he was vocal about being over 6 feet tall, and that the lady got moved to first class. Story 7. There's a local burger place that everyone is obsessed with. However, the owner is arrogant and can't take criticism on his Google reviews, so he attacks them online. I will never give him any money. Story 8. I refuse to purchase F-35s from Lockheed Martin. Those guys have done some shady things in the past, and until they clean their act, I refused to spend my hard-earned cash on their overpriced jets. Story 9. I just had a baby and wasn't looking so great. Still losing weight from the pregnancy. Not getting outside often, barely getting showers in, etc. My husband bought me a substantial gift card for the cosmetics company, which at the time I loved. I went in mostly cleaned up, but barefaced to get a foundation match, new lipstick, you name it. I couldn't get anyone to help me. Sales associates were helping all the younger and prettier girls. I finally went up and asked for assistance with a foundation match and a lipstick. The sales associate gave me a glare up and down, did a twirl with his finger to encompass my post-pregnancy body and tired-looking face and said, "Ma'am, we just can't fix ugly. Find it yourself." I asked another sales associate who rolled her eyes and said, "I don't have time for you." I left in tears, feeling fat and ugly. My husband convinced me to write to the cosmetic company's headquarters about the incident, and they said they would ensure I received good service. I set up an appointment time for a makeover and went back another day to the same store in London. I was extremely shy at the time, but after being ignored again, I said I was here for my appointment. The sales associate looked at me, did a lip snarl, and told me he wasn't going to do it and didn't care what the headquarters said. He added a comment about my face. Long story short, the cosmetics company refunded the money from the gift card. I took it and went to the luxury brand counter in another department store. They made me feel wonderful, helped me find a routine for on the go, etc. The representatives from another beauty company came over and helped too. I never bought from the original cosmetics company again. 15 years later. Story 10. As a trucker, the pilot and Flying J truck stop chains encountered an issue. A few years ago, some of the higher-ups were caught embezzling money from the trucking companies that fueled at their stations. Imagine if fuel is $1 a gallon, they legally offer a 25-cent discount, but instead, these people claimed the discount was 20 cents and pocketed the nickel. If you pay $500 every time you fuel, that's a lot of nickels. Eventually, a company discovered this and there was a huge class action lawsuit. Someone went to prison and lots of people were fired. If you're willing to deceive the driver, several owner-operators were involved along with the bigger companies. You don't deserve my business, let alone my respect. Story 11. I will never forgive them for murdering Ken Saro-Wiwa and the rest of the Ogoni 9 in Nigeria. Even if no Shell employee directly pulled a lever at the gallows, the whole puppet show of a trial took place because of their influence. Shell was making money hand over fist, and they didn't want any activists messing it up for them. Story 12. I wish I could say Microsoft, but I need them for many, many things. I guess the second one would be Yeezy or something Kim Kardashian's company produces. Story 13. While I understand the intention and idea of this thread, as someone who works in consumer goods and retail, the question becomes, how long is a piece of string? If you start digging into almost any established or widespread product or service, you will not like what you find. Whether it's their religion, their ancestry, their ethics, or who their financiers are, once you pull that string for one product or brand, you should be pulling it for everything. You'll end up being unable to buy or use anything. I agree with another commenter who noted that influential and wealthy people need to be more accountable for their endorsements, though. Story 14. There is a regional bakery in the Mid-Atlantic called Martin's. They are famous for their potato rolls, which are delicious. I used to buy their products all the time, even though they are more expensive. Then, in 2022, they backed Doug Mastriano for Pennsylvania governor. He is the one who asked for and got a Nazi salute at his Chambersburg rally. He is literally a fascist. More recently, I drove past Martin's corporate office in Chambersburg. They now fly a Christian nationalist flag. That means they want an established state religion and a new United States Constitution. I do not give my money to people like that. Story 15. For me, it's Amazon. Bezos has never gotten a penny of my money, and Nestle because forget Nestle. Amazon is easy for me, but Nestle is tougher. I used to enjoy Kit Kat and San Pellegrino. Story 16. Murdoch Media. Deliberate, calculated, and instrumental in undermining responsible government and decaying society across multiple continents. Absolute filth. Story 17. Bullite bourbon used to be my go-to for my favorite cocktail, the old-fashioned. In 2017, it came to light that Tom Boulite, founder of Boulite Bourbon, was so homophobic that he and the rest of the family pushed his daughter Hollis out of the business because she's a lesbian. She had been there for 10 years. So now Boulite doesn't get a penny from me. Vote with your dollars, folks. Story 18, reading all these comments, I think they should have a mandatory class in all United States high schools that teaches how to avoid scams, multi-level marketing schemes, fake companies, and so on. Story 19, Jimmy John's. The owner is a trophy hunter who kills elephants. No way in hell my money is going to support that. Edit. Apparently, the owner sold the company. I was not aware, but I'm glad to hear it. Maybe I'll try a sandwich now. Story 20. Any moving company based in Florida, turns out they are all mostly owned by one person who was indicted and banned from owning moving companies for 3 years due to his shady practices. He is still engaging in questionable activities today, and so are his companies. If you ever search for a moving company, his companies always appear on a list about how great they are. Story 21. There is an oil change place nearby that I have been going to for years. One day, I walked in there to get an oil change, with Fox News blaring in the background, and the owner harassed me because I look like a liberal. I was also wearing just a little bit of clove oil, and he had something to say about that as well. Story 22. Hobby Lobby, Chick-fil-A, and Tesla are the three that come to mind most quickly. I judge people with Chick-fil-A bags respect for the gay community the same way I look at people with thin blue line flags and All Lives Matter stickers respect for black people. Easy visual symbols of homophobia and/or racism, even if the people with them will deny it up and down. Story 23. I don't care that he isn't in charge anymore. That creepy person tainted his product for all time. Besides, the pizza is nothing special. Story 24. Tesla is a product that has become progressively worse over time. The early models have better features than the cars today. How does that make sense? Throw Elon Musk and his ravings and behavior into the mix. Never. Rivian is great. General Motors is surprisingly great. Story 25. There's a local restaurant near me that's quite popular, but I will never buy from it. The owner used to beat his wife constantly, and the police did nothing about it. One day, he sent her into a coma due to the beatings. That was a few years ago, and thankfully she's okay now and has left him, getting a restraining order. But I just can't even go near his restaurant. Story 26. I completely understand avoiding businesses based on owner behavior. There is a local coffee shop I used to love because of its cozy ambience and great coffee. However, the owner once made disparaging remarks about a community event supporting mental health awareness, which is something very important to me. Since then, I have decided to take my business elsewhere where the values align more closely with my own. It is not just about the product. It is also about supporting businesses that contribute positively to the community. Story 27. I just don't trust the Chinese Communist Party or anyone who can disappear the Chinese Jeff Bezos for 3 months and then have him come back singing a different tune. Story 28. Anything backed by a religious element. Hobby Lobby and Chick-fil-A come to mind right away, but if I notice any brands actively promoting religious ideas, I'm never supporting them again. Story 29. There is a long-standing bakery in our town. Amazing donuts and breads. On Saturday and Sunday mornings, there would be lines out the door to grab a dozen. Absolutely wonderful donuts. Over the COVID-19 pandemic, they started circulating anti-masking and anti-isolation petitions. The owners were on social media, heavily engaged in COVID-19 denial, which also seemed to stray into anti-LGBTQ territory, along with some other popular talking points in her belief system. There was some talk of them holding a rally or event of some kind. They supported other events of their political persuasion. Totally their right to do so, just as it has been my choice to never go back. I miss those donuts. Story 30. Red Sox tickets. Third-generation mass-raised fan, and I can't stand John Henry and the Fenway Sports Group. Immoral, pandering, lying individuals. It's been over a decade. They drove me from the game entirely. Story 31. I will never buy Chick-fil-A myself because the owners willingly and knowingly directly fund Christian gay conversion camps. The places that traumatize, threaten, and scare innocent young children who are kept there against their will, even up to age 17, because their parents are brainwashed by ridiculous religious teachings. Story 32, Uline. Richard Uline is a piece of shit racist who, along with his piece of shit racist wife, have influenced the Republican Party ultra-conservatives. And if I see another of their catalogs, I will lose it. Story 33. There is a restaurant owner down the block who allows his dog to roam freely inside, and the overworked high school girl he employs is well underpaid. We do not eat there anymore. Story 34. I have a hard time getting on board with the buy local mentality. I'm from a poor community, so buying local means shopping at Walmart, shopping at the gas station, or shopping at a mom-and-pop shop owned by the most racist people in town. Story 35. Auto Ordnance Car Arms. The owner is the son of the head Mooney, and his brother is the head of a church that believes the AR-15 is the iron rod from God. Bringing your AR-15 to be blessed is contrary to the teachings of Christ. They were big in the Stop the Steal movement too.